My name is Sabir Alim, and I'm the host of The Wise View. The Wise View is a show that addresses community concerns. Those concerns are addressed by a group of men. Men who are actively involved in their community. Men who are seeking to bring about change within the community. Men who have no fear whatsoever of confronting those issues, because we know that if we don't make changes right now, that our communities will continue to deteriorate. Most importantly, you need to understand this. This show is straight from the hip, raw, uncut, no barriers, no restrictions. That which you will find in many other shows. But we're going to tell it like it is right here. And not only are we going to talk about those concerns, we're going to provide solutions. So see, me and my crew, we make it do what it do. Join us for The Wise View.
I mean, I'm a little disappointed, because I think as neighbors, we should all care about our community and where we live. You know, if we're looking out for each other, then we're making it better for each other.
That is a reflection of what we lacked to give those young people to make them better human beings. Now the problem is that we don't want to accept that.
But black people have been lulled to sleep to believe that you'll get yours once you're dead. So our emphasis is on spirituality, our emphasis is on religion, our emphasis is on getting right with our Creator, while here on earth now, we are suffering.
Over 70 shootings in the city of Chicago, the South Side, during the 4th of July weekend. Just reported that on Monday there were 9 more shootings in the city of Chicago. In Philadelphia, there's an average of 2 shootings per day. Camden, New Jersey, Chester, Detroit, other major cities in predominantly black communities, there is an increase in violence. An increase, a rapid increase of violence in the black community. Now, worldwide, there's also an increase in violence as well. But in the black community, there is a heavy concentration of ongoing random acts of violence, so-called random. You can say what you like. You can call me suspicious, overly suspicious, delusional, paranoid, but I remember very well the Iran-Contras affair. We should all remember all too well the influx of powder cocaine into South Central Los Angeles, where drug dealers were able to access large amounts, I mean extremely large amounts of powder cocaine at ridiculously low prices. And what that did to South Central Los Angeles, the cocaine trade, the crack cocaine epidemic spread from South Central Los Angeles to Europe. Think about it. You're talking about one end of the United States through to the other end of the United States and beyond. So all I'm going to tell you, you do the homework. You find out for yourself. You do the research for yourself into what happened in South Central Los Angeles. We have AK-47s, Tech 9s, 40 calibers, 9 millimeters, all kind of high-tech, powerful firearms being found in the very communities that I just mentioned. You tell me where they're coming from. You tell me what your thinking is about the source of this distribution, this mass distribution. Little Boo Boo and the crew ain't going to no gun show. Trust me, they're not. And they can't afford, not at retail prices, not even at private seller prices at a gun show. They can't afford to make those purchases, nor are they really willing to walk into those places and make those purchases. We're talking about 1 out of every 6 individuals walking the street in the urban community carry a fully automatic firearm. If you don't believe that there is a faction distributing these weapons into the urban community, then either you're extremely jaded or just stupid. But yet we sit back and we do nothing. We challenge nothing. And that's a really serious problem in the black community. We sit back and we see all these things happening. We sit back and we're aware of all these things happening. But we go on with our lives every day like we don't have a care in the world. We become so individualized in our living that what goes on with our neighbor is no longer a concern. That's a problem. We have succumbed to a capitalist way of living, where everything has become about what have you done for me lately, where everything seems to have become about I gotta get mine. And we're not looking out for one another. Now people will say, well, Spear, you know, that's a general statement that doesn't apply to all of us. No, it doesn't. I'm just calling it what it is. We keep trying to call it something else. And in the words of Dr. Phil, so tell me, how's that working for you? Please. How's it working for you knowing that you're sitting in your easy chair and all around you, even if it's not directly in your neighborhood right this minute, but all around you, you hear about your own brothers and sisters being killed, being shot, being locked up, being beaten. How does it feel to hear that on a regular basis? And you do nothing but complain. Oh, I'm sorry, not complaining about what's happening to them, but complaining about something needs to be done about those who are inflicting such upon them. But regardless of how you want to cut it, you're actually using a double-edged sword, because both, in many cases, are victims. And you can beg to differ on that. But the person who murdered my father to take something from him. My father wasn't in any gang. My father wasn't doing anything deceitful or malicious to anyone. He was actually helping someone. And he was murdered. The young man who murdered him is spending a large portion of his life in prison. And the portion that he doesn't spend in prison, he will spend the rest of it carrying it around. Because that's what he owes the state for the crime that he committed. But what about what he owes my father? So don't sit down and try to lecture me about anything, because that young man, although victimized my father, too is a victim. In many ways. You figure it out. I've come to accept that, and that's my father. In August of 2012, I lost my job. No need to go into particulars about that. But I spent an entire year, even while collecting unemployment, searching for another job. It wasn't until the week when my benefits were ending that I secured employment. But that was an entire year. That was also with a master's degree and 18 plus years of experience. Do you have any idea of what it feels like to apply for a position over and over and over and over again with no calls, no promises, no considerations for employment? Imagine what our youth are going through. They see us as adults, as role models, unemployed. Over 30,000 removed off of welfare. 30,000 plus no means to support themselves. For every resume that I sent out for a position, there were no less than 500 to 1,000 people applying for that same position. But as we all know, employment opportunities are usually not obtained through job searches. It's usually word of mouth. It's a lot easier for some people to avoid the screening process of going through resumes and applications by just talking to someone who currently works for them, or talking to someone that they know who refers somebody. Because the thinking is that you referred this person, you know who I am and how I operate, therefore you wouldn't give me anybody or bring anybody to my door who was not reputable. Therefore, those who have no experience or little experience or have no connections with anybody within the intended organization are left out in the cold. Period. There's no in-between here. There's no in-between here. And to label all of these folks as being lazy, shiftless, irresponsible, or anything is totally unfair. I was looking for employment while getting unemployment benefits because I wanted to work. I want to work. That's who I am. And that ethic, that work ethic, that desire to achieve doesn't just stop with me. Ask any of our youth on the street, even those who are standing on the corner hustling to make a dollar. What is it they desire to have? The same thing everyone else does. A way to legally, legitimately care for myself and or my family. But for some reason, we continue to have this dialogue which is contrary to those facts I just presented, because they're facts. That's not just Sabir's thinking. Do the work. Get off of Facebook for a minute. Get off of Twitter for a minute. Get off of Candy Crush for a minute. Right? Get off the Xbox for a minute and go do the research on what's happening. See, that's one of our difficulties. We're not becoming learned. We're sitting back, we're letting others tell us things, and we're not following up. We're not seeing if this person's statements are true and correct. Now, and I'm not telling you that every area that you research, you're going to get always accurate information. That's why you look at numerous sources, and you try to find sources that are more reputable than others. And some will say, okay, well, what's more reputable than others? Well, that's something you have to find out. But what you really need to understand here is that until you do the work, until you look into things, until you ask questions, until you put things out there so you can get some kind of information back, you're just regurgitating what somebody else says. And you're just living according to somebody else's condition. Everything that somebody says comes through their own filters. Even what I'm saying now is coming through my own filters, coming through my own personal experiences, my life experiences, my experiences professional, my research experience, my academic experience. That's where those things come from. But when you sit home and all you do is read the local newspapers, I'm not going to say any names, but they're all the same. When you sit back and read local newspapers, when you sit back and you watch the local news, when you sit back and you watch even CNN, some of these other stations, you have to be careful about what you're internalizing. One of the things that we must begin to do is take a look at where we're getting our information from. That's the first thing. The second thing we have to begin to look at, where is the source of our strength? Really? Where does your strength lie? I mean, your spiritual strength. What is that source? Because you have to have a source of strength, a go-to source. When things start getting out of hand, you have to. And if there's a little boo-boo in the crew, that's part of the problem. Because there's nothing spiritual in taking a gun in hand and going after somebody, taking a knife in hand and going after somebody, stepping to people and thinking that you want to intimidate them into submitting to whatever your demands are. No. There's a spiritual solution to everything. You just have to be seeking it. You have to be seeking it. As parents, that's our role. We're supposed to be that direction, that guidance, and that immediate source. But if we're not grounded ourselves with that type of conditioning, spiritual conditioning, and I say spiritual because everybody doesn't practice religion, even though I practice one, I'm not always feeling the say, the fellowship aspect of it, the brotherhood aspect of it. So I have to read for myself, and I have to internalize for myself, because religion is personal. I don't need to share it with you. I don't need to tell you what I practice. It's reflected in my conduct. But what we have, what we have in society, what we have how do you know what religion one practices? Well, usually by some symbol, some agreement, a language that they speak, because there's a language that is spoken among groups that practice a preferred religion, or they wear a symbol of some sort. But how would you know that I'm Muslim, or that I'm Christian, or that I'm Jew, or that I'm Buddhist, or that I'm any of those practices? How would you know that? I extend a greeting of peace to everybody. Some will beg to differ with that. Some will beg to differ with that. That's fine. I won't invest energy into that differ. I will say that we have to begin to look at the end of the day, we're all impacted by the same systems in the same way. At the end of the day, we're all in the same trenches. Period. Therefore, it's necessary for us to understand how these things divide us. If you've never met a Muslim, if you've never had dialogue with a Muslim, where's your information coming from? The first thing that a non-Muslim says to me when they find that I am Muslim is, oh, y'all don't believe in Jesus. How do you know that? And is that all you know about a Muslim? You've never picked up the Quran. You've never read the Quran. You have no idea what is there. Therefore, how can you make any statements about it? But you do. And then will say to me that I don't know the Bible. You don't know that I don't know the Bible. You're making the assumption because of whatever information you've got. I read the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah. I'm familiar with all three. You wouldn't know that. And many of us as Muslims are. Many of us. Because you really don't know what it is that the Muslim believes. Because you fall prey to what you see on television, what you hear in the news. And sometimes you're misinformed by even those who practice. But again, it's for you to look into how accurate something is being depicted or said by just looking it up yourself. And I bring up those things because it's pretty much a segue for my topic of discussion today. And my topic of discussion deals with resolve of some of the conditions that exist. We're trying to take big steps. We're trying, we try to do too much in too little time. building is a process. It's one thing to have a vision of what you want to build. There's another thing to understand how that building or how building of that vision happens. And it happens a brick at a time. Because many of us who are in the trenches have been around for some time, who have been in the trenches for, for many of us have been in the trenches for a long time. We're not young as we used to be anymore. I'm not saying we're not young, we're just not as young as we used to be. A lot of us don't have the energy to put forth into a long-term project. So therefore we want to make what's really a long-term project short-term work. And it's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. It really isn't. Yes, we have to begin somewhere. Yes, we do. But we're trying to make quick work of something that developed over a long period of time. As a people, we've gotten to this point of we want to fix it right now because of the severity, of the cruciality, of the destruction in our communities. We have to heal as individuals, first and foremost, before we can do any level of healing. And we're trying to really, in essence, put a band-aid on a bullet wound. That's what we're actually trying to do. No, I'm an optimist. I believe that we can bring about change. But I'm also a realist. I'm also a realist. Those who knew that schools in Philadelphia, for instance, were going to be closing long before the public knew. What's going to happen with those schools? Now you want to sit to the table and begin to discuss what's going to happen with those schools. But that should have been a discussion had with those people who are empowered to do it and those in the community, the stakeholders. Because if I know a school is closing, that means that there's an empty building there. The question should have been asked, and it's already known, what's going to happen once that school closes? Not to just to the students. What's going to happen to that vacant building? How are we going to make use of this vacant building, which was once a symbol of higher learning? Now it's just a memory of what once was, like much in our community, like much in our community, like much. It's like the old days of the wooden roller coasters. Only like maybe 2 wooden roller coasters still in existence. Well, soon, the rate we're going, it's going to be the same way with the schools. So nothing happened. So here we have these empty schools. We have all these grassroots organizations in the city of Philadelphia. All these grassroots organizations who don't even have a place to provide services, who are actually working out of their homes. I'm one of those organizations. But just imagine this for a minute. Ride with me here. If you eat, I eat. When we look at I used to laugh about different rappers like Snoop and what's that other and some of these other guys who come up on stage and have a whole entourage of people on stage with them. But all those people who were with them, they ate in some capacity. You know, they had Snoop's back in some capacity. You know, they were doing things to help out in some, you know, some degree, which, you know, kept them behind them. They weren't just running behind them like a bunch of little puppies. You know, we don't know. No. They were looking out for the homie, if I may say. But in the end, when your funding gets cut, in the end, when your job gets pulled, when the administration goes out and a new administration comes in and you gotta go, what's gonna happen then? Think about it. What's gonna happen then? You just back to being the average Joe. And now you want somebody to throw you some crumbs every now and then, because that's all we're being thrown is crumbs. We're being swallowed up by all these big businesses, by all these non-profits that are getting all this money, and many of them, let's be truthful, many of them aren't even providing said services in an effective manner. They're just in existence. But because you've gotten $100,000 in grant money before, you qualify to get that money, therefore you get it. So us little guys down here who don't qualify because we have never handled that kind of money, we don't get it. So it's a cycle, and nobody's looking at the cycle. Everybody's looking at, listen, we feel safer with you because we've given you $100,000. You've shown all your tax statements. You've done all the things that you're supposed to do. Therefore, we're good. Okay, you've handled it before. You're eligible. You can provide such and such. You're eligible. Good. But it's no longer about eligibility. Now it's just a matter of, yo, hook us up. Just hook us up. But in the meantime, great, you're being hooked up. But what about the other? What about the other little small non-profits running around? What about them, man? For real. What about them? What about us? So you got a $300,000 grant, right? To do what? Well, you just got a raise. So now you went from earning $85,000 a year to $120,000 a year, right? Because you just got that grant. So if you bump yourself up, you bump up your VP. But what about the cause, man? Listen, dig this. I'm comfortable with my earnings of $45,000 to $50,000 a year. So some can say, well, comfortable. That ain't comfortable, man. You need no. $45,000 to $50,000 a year takes care of my needs. My needs are met with that. I'm able to pay my bills. I'm able to take care of some things to help my family out a little bit. You know, I'm able to do vacations. I'm able to do some things for myself. I'm good. I'm good. So many of us have to, you know, have more because we want more. And I'm not saying we want more for ourselves. We just want more. You know, so my car is about paid off. It's last payment for my car. Last payment for my car. Why do I need to go out and buy a new car? Why is it because I make more money, I need to go out and buy bigger things? My 35-inch TV has been doing fine. Why do I need to go out and buy a 135-inch TV? For what? Just because I'm making more money? No. No. There's no need for me to do that. So I'm fine with what I'm making. I'm fine with what I do. I'm fine with the fact that my organization exists, that I'm doing my own thing, the thing that I put together, the thing that I put in the work to have. I'm fine with that. I don't need to keep bumping my salary up. I need to expand my organization. I need to see my organization build. I need to see more services. I need to see more people working. That's what I need to see. That's what I need to see. I don't know about you, but that's what I'm looking for. Opportunity. For me to grow, opportunity. For you to grow, opportunity. For me to see some of the fathers who, you know, daddy's right here services, see him get a job and see him counsel other fathers, see him mentor other fathers, see him improve his relationship with his children, with the mother of his children, right? Those are the kind of things I'm saying. That's in my vision. I don't know about what's in yours. I don't have visions of dollar signs, gold bullion, and Bentleys. That's not what I'm looking to do. That's not in my mission statement. That's not in my vision statement. I don't have that. Period. I'm fine with going to Walmart and buying a pair of khakis. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with going to Burlington and getting a shirt. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with going on eBay, going shopping. I'm good. I'm good. Those are values my mother gave to me. My mother gave me those values. We used to go to Food Fair and Pantry Pride and Penn Fruit. In aisle 6, you go get a loaf of bread. In aisle 12, you go get some mayonnaise. Oh, as a matter of fact, stop over there on that aisle by the customer service rack, you know, the ones that have the different sneakers, and grab yourself a pair of sneakers. Yeah, that's my value system. And I'm not saying I have to get shoes from, you know, Penn Fruit and Pantry Pride anymore, but what I am saying is that I don't have to have all of the magnanimous, you know, vanities of the world. I don't need all of that. I don't need all of that, man. I don't need all of that. I got a polo shirt on because my brother had a store. My brother sold polo shirts. I wouldn't be going into the store buying, spending $50, $60 on a shirt. Now I wait for them jokers to go on sale. But because my brother owned a store, I got shirts from him. That's not who I am. I'd rather go fishing every weekend. I'd rather spend $60, go get on the boat for a few hours, hang out with a couple of friends, have some good conversation, smoke me a couple cigars, catch a fish or two. I mean, because that's pretty much what you're catching now anyway. Catch a fish or two, man, but just hanging out. That's life for me. Sitting on the beach, man, with my feet up, drinking lemonade, watching the waves, listening to the birds, and all that. That's life for me. I don't need to be driving around a car. Yeah, I have a nice car. I have a nice car. I'm not driving no $45,000, $50,000 car. No, I'm not. I'm good. I get from point A to point B. I go from point A to point B. I'm good. That's my value. But that's the same value that we should be passing on, right, to our children. But we're not. Let's be real about that. We're not. We're not. We're giving children anything without them working for it. They don't get their behinds up on Saturday morning and do any work in the house. I had a bucket every Saturday morning. We had a bucket. This is your assignment. That's your assignment. Let's get it. You want to be outside. You want to go out. You need to get this done first. Every Saturday morning. Every Saturday morning. Kids now don't get up. Don't feel like getting up. Cuss at you because they don't feel like getting up. Getting mad because they don't feel like getting up. But they sitting there with a $300-something Xbox at their disposal. I ain't doing nothing. They been sitting up all night playing it too. They walking around with $200 sneaks on. They stand in the line in front of Modell's Tuesday morning waiting for those sneaks to come out on Thursday afternoon. And you alright with it. You alright with it. Now if I know, if it don't apply, okay. But sometimes things you might not think things apply, but sometimes, you know, you need to, you know, if the shoe fits, find your size. Because the reality of it is, man, listen, we all have our guilts. We all have our areas that are needing change. All of us. All of us. And that's my point. That's my point. That all of us have something that we have to change. But we have to start looking at things. And we're not even willing to look at things. We're focused more on telling the other person. And you can say, well, Sabir, aren't you doing the same? Yes. I'm telling you that if we don't change what we're doing right now, if we don't change the way we're doing business right now, there will be no future for our children other than incarceration, other than death. Let me say this. I remember when my father was murdered, and I went to my place of worship, and I spoke to one of the imams afterward to let him know, what was going on with me, where I was. He went to, after giving me, his condolences, he went to the resident imam and pointed to me, was telling the resident imam about my situation. That resident imam didn't even come over to me and extend anything. You know, because the brother, the other imam said, well, listen, I'm going to let so-and-so know because he's a resident imam. He needs to know that as well. He did his part. He went over to the other imam. He told the imam just looked over, didn't wave, come, shake hand, do nothing. Nothing. And the imam told me, he said, well, I let him know. The brother never said anything to me. So when we look around our religious institutions, like listen, I'm Muslim. My responsibility is to read, follow the Quran. That's my responsibility. I go into the institutions, I practice because that's what I'm obligated to do. Bottom line on it is, listen, we're weak. We're weak. Oh, not just in the Muslim community. We're weak across the board, man. Nobody's doing anything but sitting around talking about praise God, praise this, praise that, and then right up the street, right next door, you got families struggling. You got seniors struggling. You got single parents struggling to make it. But because they don't practice what we practice, we ostracize them. Or we have a mindset, well, they need to come to us. They're the ones that need the help. That's our responsibility. It's our responsibility. Community outreach is our responsibility as believers. As believers, it's our responsibility to reach out to our community members to make sure our people are safe. We don't even do that. We don't even do that. So, again, you have my contact information. Website www.daddysrighthere.net. It's time for us to stop talking and do something. Period. Period. You want to rationalize and justify your ongoing lackadaisical position in doing something about the problem. You continue to do that. But I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm not. I'm not going to be a part of those kind of things. I'm no longer going to be a part of sitting back co-signing somebody else's stuff. I'm not going to do that. I'm not in the position of kissing anybody's behind because, you know, you got something that I want that I need to follow behind you like some little puppy. No. This is about business. That's what this is about. The business of the black community. Period. And if you're not about your business for the black community, then move out of my way. Move out of the way of those of us who are trying to trudge forward to bring resolve to the conflicts, controversies that exist in the black community. Get out the way. Because you're in the way. You're in our way. You're in your own way. But get out of our way. Period. So I'm coming. I'm coming. And this is how I'm built. This is what I'm built like. So you want to sit down, you want to have some dialogue with me? Let's have some dialogue. Let's have some dialogue. I can be found on Facebook. I can be found on Twitter. I can be found on LinkedIn. My email address is daddysrighthere, one word, @yahoo.com. Twitter @daddysrighthere, all one word, capital letter for each word, all together. Let's have it. Let's have the dialogue. Let's have the dialogue. Don't be a Facebook gangster. Don't be a Twitter gangster. Don't be an email gangster. You want to sit down and have some conversation? Hit me up. Schedule a meeting. We can sit down and talk. We can sit down and talk. But don't do the Billy Badass on me on social media. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because I can sit here on camera and name names. But it's not about that. It's a matter of, it's time for us to do something different. But most importantly, it's time for us to do something now. Right now. and scheduling another meeting is not right now. Period. What you gonna do about it? And I guarantee you that Liberian ambassador who came down is going to bring more people with him. Trust me, he didn't come by himself. And see how expeditious he was met with? See how expeditious that happened? He showed up, they met with him. Cut and dry. The administration, the local administration met with him because they already know there's support, there's power, there's backing there. And they don't want this to be an international incident because it's already taken shape into being one. But that shows how weak we are with our own political structure in Philadelphia. It shows how weak we are. It shows how weak Pennsylvania is. But most importantly, what it shows is that you have us on the local level, right, who are sitting on the sidelines, seeing all this happen. In the end, we're going to suffer. We're going to suffer because lawsuits against the city of Philadelphia. You think that we're trying to put $2 on a pack of cigarettes? Oh, and then that's a whole nother story. We'll talk about that another time because that whole situation is about to get real ugly because it keeps going back and forth to the Senate. To the, listen, but it's listen. We need black leadership. Period. Period, man. Period. We need to get behind the right person who is willing to confront that which needs to be confronted. And we need to hold people accountable. Look around you, man. For real. Look around you. You see growth and development and progress for the black community? You really do? Really? Come on. No, you don't. No, you don't. So stop keying with everybody and making everybody think that, you part of that. If you ain't part of that, step off from it. Challenge it. Confront it. And you need to be man or woman enough to walk away from those groups of people who are not truly seeking forward progress for the black community. For real. For real. We need to challenge each other on our actions. We really do. Philadelphia for a long time, it's nothing new, has been known as being the most corrupt city. One of the most corrupt cities. And the condition of our communities is reflective of such. Because nothing is going into the community. Everything is going into people's pockets. So when we sit down, we watch the news, and we look at all these other war-torn countries and these other environments where they have dictators, and these dictators are living lavishly while the people are suffering. We are suffering as a people right here in the land of the free, the home of the brave. We are suffering as a community, and nobody can change that. But I told you who I'd stand behind. But nobody other than that man is doing something about the condition of blacks in America. Nobody. Nobody. So you can say what you want to say. Say what you want to say. Our religious institutions are weak. Our religious institutions don't even come out. You don't even know who most of your neighbors are. You have a masjid, you have a church, you have a synagogue, you have a temple, a Buddhist temple, whatever. You have all these things sitting right in your community. And when I say temple, I'm very clear. Because temple number 12, all the temples are familiar with people, all the people in their community, because they're out and about in the community. very specific, I'm talking about a Buddhist temple. You have all these institutions that sit right smack dab in the middle of the community, scoop up all of the money from your parishioners, from people who come in to hear you preach. You take all that money. Nothing going back into the community. Nothing. Most of our religious leaders, so-called, don't even know who lives next door to their own building. You don't even know who lives next door. But those who are coming to your institution are taking up parking spaces.